it deja vu? Or perhaps for the Seoul Dynasty, it's Groundhog Day. Welcome back to the 2020 Grand Finals presented by IBM. I'm Mitch.
Damn it, I was actually supposed to say Roadhog Day. I guess it still worked fine because it's like history repeating itself, but I was supposed to say Roadhog Day. I didn't realize I'd forgotten. Well, I mean, I don't get punished for it because that is a thing that people say, but I missed it. God damn it.
Leslie here with Matt Morello, of course, and I mean, a tough start for the Seoul Dynasty in this series. It's a first to 4. They start 0-2 down, and the Assault map pick from them is an interesting one.
So, again, I don't think I'm teasing the map directly. Well, I'm teasing it, but I'm not referencing it directly. And I'm just trying to reset. So it's, again, I'm re-establishing the stage.
Yeah, they go to Hanamura. The San Francisco Shock are extremely good at this map. I do wonder.
Oh man, I put on some weight in quarantine. Jesus.
Why they've decided to come to this map? The only thing I can think of is like maybe they have some type of strategy that they planned like in advance, or the fact that they played the Shock on Volskaya, they were able to get a win there. The Shock now have gone back.
Well, eyes are up here, Matt.
A lot of that footage, and maybe they thought the Shock would have come back looking much better on Volskaya. I think if you look at that lens, you're probably looking a little bit too deep into it, considering this is a map that like San Francisco never loses. They never lose this map. It's a really risky.
So this is, I think we did really good here. I mean, it's Hanamura. The Shock just haven't lost it. They just haven't lost it. Now, I mean, they didn't play the Dynasty much, if at all. I mean, maybe they played them early on in the season. I don't think I even checked because it wasn't relevant because of hero pools. But this is the storyline. The Dynasty, on a very important map, are choosing San Francisco Shock's undefeated map. That is the story, and we are going to fucking pimp that story for all it's worth.
Pick. And very quickly as well, just want to let everybody at home know that the Overwatch League website is now back to functionality. Thank you very much for your patience, and go and head over there and enjoy the goodies. It's a gambit, right? I think at this point for the Seoul Dynasty, if they want to take a victory in this kind of match, they have to do something crazy. Do you think they really care?
So again, set the stakes. This is ridiculous. They've chosen this map. Everybody needs to know that this is just wild from them. And now I want to ask Matt, like, Matt, what's it going to take? You know, here's a good chance for Matt to speak to his experience as a player, but also whatever analysis he might have prepared.
About those stats, though, you have to like the desk teased this like profit Farah. Do you think that is sort of a reasonable expectation going forward?
So what I did there, which is something that really is quite important, is I actually referred to something the desk said, because we are the same show. It feels maybe sometimes that we're different shows, because if I want to listen to the desk chat, I have to like go to my computer and I have to, instead of watching the program monitor, I have to switch the program monitor over to the desk monitor. Then I have to unmute it and then watch it. And then I have to remute it and switch back over to the program monitor before they come back to us. So sometimes we just don't get to see all the desk. But one thing that I really like that what we do is we work with the desk on building our narrative, and we build off of what they say at halftime. And I often use something that Johnny or Custer has said, and I fire it at Matt and get his take on it. And then I keep referring back to it as much as I can, because it ties the show together. A lot of casters don't watch the desk segments. I've sat in green rooms for every one of the top esports, or at least most of them. Even the events I wasn't casting at, I used to just walk into CS green rooms because I was an ESL employee and I knew the casters. Not saying that the CS people didn't watch the desk segment. All I'm saying is that and the casters don't do a good job. But like, you're not just paying off your color caster. Like, you want to let your co-workers shine, but it's not just your other caster. It's the people on the desk as well. As a play-by-play caster, it is your job to make everybody else look good. Often, sometimes, at the cost of your own prestige or assumed intelligence.
You kind of go through the different heroes they could play. I mean,
so here's another sort of sponsor bit. Again, it's relevant because the Shock appear here on multiple occasions, right? So, I mean, I don't think I expected this to happen, because I think we didn't know the map pick, but the producers worked off it quickly. We got another one of these in, and it reinforces the narrative of San Francisco just being really good. I mean, you can just get rid of that. Like, no one, yeah. I mean, this is the real first place. So it's, it's relevant.
maybe a Pharah, maybe they try and play some Sombra.
Sorry,
stuff,
Texans.
Still, you don't really like any of it against what San Francisco's pushing back with.
Not only do San Francisco not lose on Hanamura, they also have 2 of our fastest map records presented by Xfinity.
Oh, there it is. Remember, I have to say it, chat. I have to say it.
At number 2 and number 4. I mean, you can kind of throw the first one out, Fuel versus Justice. It was a little bit of a different time, but the Valiant, obviously a quality team, and Shock really punished them on this map. And we have seen what San Francisco bring against that Pharah, right? Prophet tried to play Pharah against them right at the start of the grand.
Notice that I'm not talking too fast. I'm slowing down. I'm just, you know, there's no need to rush this. This is important. I'm not just filling time. We are building. We're building a story. We're building on a story.
Finals presented by IBM, and it was a Batiste pick from Violet that clipped Prophet's wings.
They don't.
So I get on to refer to guys. Like we thought that the Seoul would pick this map because Pharah is good on defense on this map. So again, I reminded everybody, the Violet Batiste, he's the only guy doing it, and it worked. You know, it worked. I think it was against Seoul last time, right? That is like something that only San Francisco do that is interesting, and you should look out for it.
Have to change just.
It's like I watch Lionel Messi because no one has clean finishes like he does, or you know, maybe I talk about Tom Brady because no one is confident enough to stand in the pocket, stock still, and then fire off a pass. Like no one does it like him. Like these are those players that exist. I want to be talking about as often as I can.
Outside of that. You bring in the Batiste, you have great long-range hit scan with Ons, and also you've had nobody be able to pressure Ons out for the Seoul Dynasty, really at all. So,
yeah, who's shutting Ons down?
This is a real big gamble.
I mean, Prophet is doing good. I think I don't want to sell him short here.
But I think at this point, Seoul Dynasty, they need to hit on something. They need something to happen here.
Seoul Dynasty delving deep for something special, and they're going to do it on what may as well be San Francisco's home ground. It's Hanamura for map number 3 in this first of 4 series, and the San Francisco Shock will start on defense, and they are ready for airborne threats, Matt. They've got double hit scan.
What almost would be weirder is if they pick this map and they
the virtual stage was good actually. The view you see me and Matt on though is actually not technically the virtual stage. Well, it is, but it's more of it's a still shot with animation in it. It's hard to explain, but that's how we look like we're less cropped than the desk.
Anything special per se planned. That would almost be weirder, in the sense that like you haven't looked good in the mirror, so but then you beat them on a map in the assault pool.
13-0.
And then you go somewhere else.
So Matt can't see that, I don't think.
It would be really.
But it doesn't matter. I say it. You see it. It's
really odd. They didn't really think that there would be any kind of threat of the Prophet Pharah. Fitz is most likely to teleport forward.
So I wonder if they scrimmed this map because the Shock didn't play Batiste on defense. And I mean, but remember they played Batiste on Oasis and there was no Pharah either. So maybe they're just trying to play safe and not get caught off guard because maybe Batiste looks a lot worse here. I mean, Batiste Mercy, like how do you pressure the enemy Roadhog? I think it's probably pretty hard.
We do see some sim on this map. Is this something that they want to stay on longer? Look, if you had a planned strategy,
that was damage boosted orbs, man.
Completely ruined now. That is Violet with a pick on a Prophet. Early, you burned a res. Now they know you're already playing the Symmetra.
Okay, so they see the Symmetra, but can the Shock adapt to it? We know what they're going to do. Do I not have to mention Coke there? No, if it comes up in a lower third, Thick Six, we don't have to. It's actually different levels. Like that lower third, that we call it, the little bar down the bottom, that's sold as part of the Coca-Cola deal, but it's more likely that like the deal was like, the casters will reference Coca-Cola for the Coca-Cola Energy Power Hour or whatever that was. But in the deal, like there won't be any stipulations that we have to say Coke Energy when it comes up. Like IBM comes up on the screen a couple of times in the L bar. We don't mention it. But if I say the grand finals, you better believe I have to say presented by IBM afterwards. The same as player of the match. Like there's Xfinity lower thirds all the time, but I will mention Xfinity when it's fastest map time or it's player of the match presented by Xfinity. Otherwise, no.
to take a different route. They may have wanted to play on the point, but obviously not anymore.
So Fitz heads back to spawn. The rest of his team does get teleported. This is reminiscent of what San Francisco tried on Kings Row. It gets the Dynasty in a more commanding position and allows them to cross the gap without taking all this poke damage from Arns and especially Striker.
So again, this is technically analysis that I'm doing, but it's pretty lowbrow. Like it's every day. You know, like I think it's pretty clear. But what I did was that I did it in a narrative way and was like, remember, this is what San Francisco did on Kings Row to the Dynasty that took them off guard. Now they're trying something similar, and I contrast the styles, and obviously it means fans of Overwatch know exactly what's going on. So my analysis here is maybe not so much for the in the weeds Overwatch fan, right? The Seoul Dynasty flair Redditor. It's, you know, it's for, you know, the people that came for the drops, I guess.
I was going to say, a big difference here is Striker's playing Ashe here instead of Hanzo. So 2 really long-range hit scan. They can just kind of take different angles, crossfire each other. Be very difficult even for the Widowmaker, because the sightlines here on Hanamura for Fitz, it kind of plays into the Ashe's effective range.
Striker there, getting pressured and is forced out of line of sight, but Gesture doesn't go anywhere from
I mean,
that
this
corner.
is
He has to wait
such an awkward position for
a
Gesture.
chance to
Yeah.
get out, and he is denied it.
So that I as soon as I saw that, I was like, I mean, this is the story of this fight. Like, you are gestured, you are there. Like, I don't know how you get out of this. And also the sight line is still really dangerous for a resurrect, right? So it's I mean, because if you're Mercy and you get the res here, you can't go back up to a player here unless you're standing here, right? Because you can't see them. And that's just way too dangerous. So there was not going to be a res there. That's a pretty crucial frag.
Violet claims him again and continuing to be that DPS, the only player with final blows on the San Francisco Shock right
Again, reiterate the Violet impact.
now until soon.
And then I'm able to pivot sort of mid-sentence there because I took a breath when he's now not the only player with the final blow.
And he was putting pressure on the choke the entire time. Like the desk has talked about, I think one of, if not the biggest difference in the series so far has been Super, you know, whether it's shutting down Gesture or just causing a lot of havoc. He's almost playing how Gesture was playing, right? We're going on these like flanks, but also being a little bit more careful as there's still players here for Seoul Dynasty. So Marvel will be on the point.
Fitz has a very obscure angle here, but with Super going down, the Dynasty might have a chance, yes, to push all their
Yeah, so if Super doesn't die there, like, Fitz probably doesn't get served up too many opportunities from where he's sat all the way back out there. It's very safe.
players here onto the point. Jess is in a really commanding flank position, but can't interact presently with Violet, who's in Transcendence. Still, the hook on the mock will do the job, but even the healing from Violet is not going to be enough to keep the Mercy alive. Chokyoban goes over the edge, and it looks like San Francisco will abandon this defense.
Chokyoban actually may have died there to Hypersphere rebound, so might have missed that, but that's okay.
This attempt.
The small mistake. It's definitely a mistake.
Finagle their way into position, Matt. The route maneuvering finally bears fruit.
Yeah, and that time you see Gesture actually get to one of those advantageous positions.
So I didn't really say all that much. I just said, like, Seoul Dynasty were able to get in position and they found a Roadhog kill, which is not actually that exciting in fight, but I'll use a selection of words to make it sound maybe a little more than it is. Just put a bit of a shine on it.
Wait a minute.
Make a big difference as Striker will switch. You still have Ons here.
That's a big stagger.
Drop. Yeah, he'll get that fast spawn, though.
It's not a big stagger, you dickhead. The fucking change in the game now means that you spawn way quicker. So that's just a straight up, that's an error. That's me at 9 AM forgetting that. Yeah, there's not really an excuse for that. It's just a mistake.
So he'll be right back up into the action. So you don't miss a beat here if you're the Shock.
Super in position just to stop any flank attempts here. This allows Striker to potentially make a foray of his own, especially in the absence of Prophet now. And Striker, unseen, can he interrupt this resurrection?
So again, I try and contextualize what Strike is doing in color of Seoul having lost a player, and thereby some degree of map control, you could argue.
No, his vision's obscured by the cherry blossoms. Otherwise, a fantastic ornamental piece for this map. In that case, a nuisance.
A flowery way of saying the tree looks pretty, but if it wasn't, the fact that it's there means he can't hit the shot. I mean, there's not much going on right now, so I don't think I'm sort of losing too much doing that, but that is the thing.
Seoul just waiting a bit.
That was intentional pause.
And everybody in position, but also giving time for San Francisco to take some of these wider angles. Does Witsel use in for sight? Same with Aunts.
What do the Dynasty do with this information?
So again, we are letting this breathe intentionally because that makes the climax so much sweeter, right?
Arts has found a big headshot on Super. Prophet tried to capitalize, playing from the other side. Two sides of the same pincer for the Dynasty, but neither have drawn blood. That's aggressive from Prophet. He dives forward. Is he in a position to pressure Striker back? That Sonic Arrow is going to give him the information, but in no position to go for it. Gesture, though, he's right in spawn.
And that is intentional. I've thrown to Matt there. He picks it up perfectly.
They've used Valkyrie and Nano here. This will be Transcendence out of the spawn here for Violent. So it's almost 2 ticks for Seoul Dynasty. It'll be Gravitic Flux up in the sky, taking out Gesture. Marvel will.
Did you catch that?
But you do have some progress made.
I didn't.
Seoul Dynasty.
So I'm glad that Matt brought it up at the time.
Just to get in, and on a map like this, Mitch, right? It makes it even harder, I think, for Gesture. There's not a lot of angles where you can flank.
I just didn't. I wasn't looking at that.
On, especially kind of attacking. He also has to walk into the Zenyatta, which the Discord Orb is going to come down at range. You have these snipers. It's so difficult to
I'm glad someone got the reference.
Alive, and also for him to make a huge impact.
Is there any world where, I mean, Gesture can safely walk through main against this Zenyatta?
So I'm asking a question now, and I think this is really important because, I mean, it is to a degree something I'd like Matt to talk about, but it's something that just occurred to me, and I was like, wait a minute. I mean, this is actually a genuine question.
Do they have to go to the high ground of the Dynasty?
I mean, he has to. If you go main, you're.
So we haven't really seen Seoul properly push into the point yet, outside of that first push, which was kind of staggered. It looked like they just walked straight. It looked like they walked through main, but I couldn't tell. So I want to say, like, I want Matt to answer the question: how do Seoul Dynasty need to play the video game to win? It's just another way I'm asking it. Like, what should we expect? And then if we see a deviation from that expectation that is set, then that's notable in and of itself.
Almost certain to get Discord and then just kind of shot from the high ground at multiple angles. He's going to try it here, and look at this. Already just takes a shot, has to drop down.
Or maybe he wanted to. This actually allows him to access the left hand.
So again, like, it's a suspension of disbelief. Like, maybe, like, we can speculate. It's fine. I'm not a pro player. And, you know, this allows us to not be certain about what a player is actually doing, and that to be okay.
Side of this last temple area.
Turning up the VOD volume a bit.
Without jumping over an uncrossable gap. Gesture gets Super. The little flank around maneuver finally pays off, and Violet has also gone down. San Francisco will have players coming back into formation now, and Moth hasn't used that Resurrect yet. He may have to now, though. Strike has been removed. That's the Valkyrie from Moth being used. 2 ticks here for the Dynasty, Matt. Yes, Moth.
So that's a pretty clear throw. I'm actually letting Matt have some play-by-play here. It's fine, because it's not the end of the map, and, I mean, it's a pretty weird fight.
Just fly onto the point, try and get a contest. It'll be Violet, takes out Gesture on the point. You have Super just sleeping here. But look at this, Violet taking out the tanks in his backline. First takes out Gesture, then takes out Marvel.
So wrong, dude. That gets a signature unbelievable from yours truly. That is just that is ridiculous.
He currently sits at 6 final blows. And make it 7! This guy is absolutely out of his mind.
Oh god.
Above and beyond the Call of Duty goes Violet. He tweeted earlier today on social media. It's edited a picture of himself with like those red Terminator eyes that said, I have to win, I have to win, I have to win. That is hunger. But that was just talk. In game, that hunger is now personified.
Yeah, I want to take the opportunity to, like, you know, I think that's some of his personality that I get to involve, like something that he tweeted, right? If I get a chance to, like, refer to that, that's nice. It's good flavor.
Now,
also, that was, yeah, it was crazy.
We're down to a minute on the clock for Seoul Dynasty. They'll have both of these support ults. That's how they were able to get in the last time. Valkyrie plus a nano boost on a Gesture. You needed that extra durability on a Gesture to get towards the point. The bad part for Seoul Dynasty, as you'll have a Transcendence, you'll have that Gravitic Flux plus Dragon Strike combo. They have to be careful, all clumping up here on the high ground.
45 seconds remain. The Dynasty's reasonable time bank has dwindled to less than 1 minute. The upside for them is that they have some big ultimates to leverage here.
Yeah, but they're going to get in a position where they have to fight on the point.
It's a great interjection from Matt here.
And this Gravitic Flux plus Transcendence is going to be huge.
One tick though, that's all Jester needs. He tries the whole hog, but Super again ruins his day. He can't escape, despite the fact he was being healed by Toby. Arns is able to cut him down to size. Marvel sets up on the point now, but Fitz just disintegrates under the scrutiny.
The fight just got won there with that kill on Super.
Violet, it's another Harmony Orb. And Striker can sit on the point now. Marvel's so low. Arns has a perfect angle for this, but there aren't any players for the Shock on the ground. And the Dynasty, fantastic comeback to work their way through. They were short-handed in that fight, Matt.
Yeah, but they're able to get rid of Choyoven earlier. They're not able to get a res, so he never gets a use of that Gravitic Flux I was talking about, and that's huge because you're not playing with a big support ult for Seoul Dynasty. You don't have a Zenyatta, so it would have been dead.
And I think Violet wins MVP if there aren't 4 more maps in this series. Or 3, or however many it was. Yeah, 3, right? Yeah.
Devastating for Seoul to deal with.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to make some noise.
Right,
you can use the cheer function on overwatchleague.com/react to cheer live for your team. Brought to you by Coca-Cola. Just like we've had in years gone by, we want to fill this arena with your energy. We've already been really enjoying seeing you guys in the T-Mobile Skybox. It's such a pleasure.
You know, I'm not allowed to refer to the Skybox unless I say T-Mobile Skybox before it. Fortunately, I remember that. This is ad lib now at this point.
Get to share this moment with you, and my God, I'm hearing it already. Let's go, baby. The Dynasty.
Just so hard to. It's hard. It's just hard to generate that feel, right? I don't know, the atmosphere.
Finish the map, but the Shock now kind of have a decent idea of how they match up, or how they need to match up on the attacking side. Matt, Violet is absolutely out of control. And look at this. He's ready with the Batiste. He knows that Prophet's going to be trying for the...
I think I got a little bit ahead of myself here. But this is where the defensive Pharah comes up. And this is why... Like, that was kind of where the payoff of, like, the whole build-up of the Violet Batiste. We finally got to see it. Or finally get to see it, at least. So, that's why we're sort of staying so... I can't believe I lost my timestamp. I'm molding. I need to go back and I need to navigate back to a chat. Sorry.
He's ready with the Batiste. He knows that Prophet's going to be trying for the Pharah. He is 8 final blows and 4 deaths. He leads the Shock by a decent margin. He's almost deadlifting his team.
He's actually almost deadlifting at this point. I mean, it's early on, but I'm pretty sure like he has 8 final blows. I think his team has like 18 in total or something like that. It was just so dumb. It's just ridiculous.
You play Violet on the Batiste, but you also ditch the Roadhog here. And you play the Wrecking Ball in the Tracer.
The Super Bowl.
Instead of
Super Bowl,
right? You just get on it and just put pressure on the backline. Try and make this Pharah almost useless. And if Striker and Super can get into the back and get some pickoffs, it makes the Pharahs very difficult to make a huge impact.
This setup though for Seoul is incredibly impressive. You can see how safely Prophet can rain those rockets down, Matt.
So they don't have a Mercy coming into this next fight. San Francisco have a little bit of a window here now. Striker behind enemy lines. A pick on a Creative here would be enormous.
Hunting for Creative. He also sees the Pharah Prophet close by. He tries for Creative.
Quick pick up and pace there as he starts to make the push.
Maybe attempting to bait out the Biotic Grenade, and he does. Creative has to self-heal.
He can go hunt Toby off spawn now.
Creative getting harassed still, and here comes Super. Rolls straight on through. Striker finds that kill, but it's traded. Super eventually...
So I very quickly mentioned it was traded there.
He's going to have to get out here, but that's 1 tick already on the point. And look at this displacement. Soul is being forced away from the point, but they bring Creative back, and they're ready. They've regrouped, and they want to fight.
Yes, that'll be a bob onto the point here from Fitz. It'll be an Amp Matrix drop from Violet. Oh, beautiful hook there from Gesture. That could be huge.
And it is Super taken out of the fight now. The Dynasty had to use a bit in that fight, but Fitz goes down to Striker. A huge pick for the Tracer, who's been lurking for most of the fight, and Arts is brought back into the fray. Marvel trying to...
I'll be honest with you, chat. I have no fucking idea what's going on in this fight. Like, outside of what I'm seeing, it is a complete mess.
Desperately protect Toby, the lifeblood of this Dynasty roster. And Arts has gone down. Jester has to return to the point.
Now I know. Now I can see the position things are in. And, like, it's not that good for San Francisco, but it's winnable. It's winnable at least.
Here, but Super rolls on in, gets a pile driver accretion from Marvel to try and...
That nano again, the nano, and it's the Biotic Grenade on Super that really seals the deal. Creative is is fucking dragging the Dynasty, kicking and screaming through these maps.
The ball down. Here's the whole hog from Gesture. Biotic Grenade on Super makes this one really hurt. He'll have to take a breather before he returns to the fight. But San Francisco, they're not
I had to call the Biotic Grenade out here because it's what forces Super so far away.
done here. They're going to keep
And
trying to apply some
all that
pressure.
momentum they've lost.
Yeah, Super will go off. He'll get a health pack, and he'll come back, and he'll have a minefield to drop in a point. Minefield plus like a self-destruct, good enough to clear this out.
Dynasty, all things considered, in a decent spot right now. Great accretion across the map by Marvel. And Arns has to be resurrected here. Super once again, a foray towards the point. The Wrecking Ball.
I'm overusing foray a little bit this map, I've noticed. That's the third time that I've identified it, so maybe no more. Hopefully I don't say it again.
In the past, a butt of jokes on his stream now.
I wanted to mention the Super Bowl, the meme of him just feeding. So I get to do it there, like at least in a professional way, but I thought it was kind of funny.
Maybe the secret weapon to get the shock across the line. It's Jacobin. That's an environmental kill on Fitz. He's knocked off of the clip, and he'll have plenty of time to think about what has happened as the shock converge on point A, man. They'll capture it, and they'll have a fairly healthy time bank with 4 minutes, 16 seconds.
And they have the answer for this. As soon as they saw the Hanamura pick, it gives a huge kind of a sign.
But I guess, I mean, maybe it feels like this is proof of concept for the Batiste pick. Personally, it wasn't the Batiste pick that won in this fight, in my humble opinion. I actually think it was Troy Hoban, his diva. But, I mean, they used Batiste against the Farah, and it worked. No, I wasn't saying the time to sync there, absolute prune. That one there is what I usually try and refer the time bank explicitly. Sometimes for hard of hearing, sort of vision impaired people, I also do it. And also if someone is maybe looking away at that moment, it is a good habit to get into, is to, when a point's taken, just to spell out the time bank.
Going into halftime, that's something different is going to happen with Seoul Dynasty. And what is it? It's the Farah on defense. And San Francisco, they solve it. They bring in the Wrecking Ball. They bring in the Diva, the Tracer. They really just go after Seoul's backline aggressively.
Profit being extremely heavily pressured here, but the rest of the Dynasty are able to deal with Arns, possibly the biggest threat from that high ground.
Now I think you switch, potentially, if you're San Francisco, and you already see Violet make the switch.
Yeah, Matt calls the switch. I mean, it's not rocket science. The Dynasty aren't playing Farah anymore, but still, it's great that he points it out. Do I have a list of crutch words that I try to avoid? I'm kind of past that point, I think, for the most part in my career. Sometimes they crop up, like, within the space of, like, one map or one series and have to be dealt with there. Sometimes I don't notice them, but I don't... I used to say unbelievable too much. But none that I've really identified recently. Oh, I did it earlier in my career all the time. Yeah, of course I did. Because we just use crutch words because our brain's too slow, or we're buying time, or anything like that, you know?
I think Super and Choyobin probably switch. Maybe you bring in the Roadhog. Maybe you keep the self-destruct for the next, just trying to make a play. And ooh, it looks like Violet goes back. So maybe they want to keep this going with. I do think, with the way they were going, Gesture was starting to heat up a little bit. Make some plays. You saw him get a hook on a Violet, a hook on an Aunt. They have to be careful. They can't let Gesture come alive.
Profit playing quite far forward there. He's met with the defense matrix of Choyobin on that Diva. A hero on which he has previously soared to great heights in and out of game.
I get lucky there with the pun. But obviously his Diva has been very good.
Answer with the accretion. Oh, the 1-2 punch is nasty, but Profit is traded out elsewhere. Here's a gravitic flux that Choyobin can't do much about. He'll have to self-destruct to replace. Oh, no!
So clever, dude. Did he get fluxed before or after he goes for the self-destruct? Either way, he actually gets away with that, which is mental.
Oh, Fitz goes down. Choyobin just wanted a shiny new mech, and instead he gets the scalp of Fitz. Jess is going to be forced off a point now. The Micro Rockets get the job done, and Striker has a big old bomb for Marvel. Gesture tries to go for
taking breaths here because it's going to be a long fight.
The whole hog. Much of it is nullified by the defense matrix, but he receives a friendly biotic grenade, and he gets.
So there I can say what happened, and also I can remind people the function of defense matrix here.
It's a big old hook on a Striker. He'll be knocked off the point now, and the Shocker fairly close to that second tick, but Profit has returned to the fray. Bob attempts, well, to try and capture the point, but one defends it as well. San Francisco again, it's back to the drawing board, Matt.
I took a breath there because I actually wasn't sure what Bob it was, so that was a time bite.
Yeah, it's Bobs from both teams there. Towards the end of the fight is this will be a stagger here on Choi.
This is a big stagger.
Yep. He gets back in the mech.
This is so bad.
Ooh, the sleep dart comes through. It's going to be a while until he gets back.
Life comes at you fast, Troy Hoban.
Yep. They barely put any damage down to him originally when the hook comes down, and then eventually they finish him off.
And that also gives Seoul essentially another fight win there. Arntz finds a kill on Profit, but it's not going to be consequential because of the Resurrect.
So I'm mentioning that stagger, I said it essentially gives them another fight win because it buys about as much time as one, right? Like it's a good 30 seconds from the end of that fight to, you know, that Resurrect there.
Bit of extra ult charge for Seoul as they head into a fight in which they don't really have much to work with. But let's see how this went down. Violet tries to flank.
So you see what I did there? This time I'm not taking the replay from Matt. So I'm saying, so this time Violet tries to flank. So I will just segue or I'll start the intro and Matt knows. I've handed it to him. This is where we get his take on what happened.
Let's see. Oh, he loaded up a Batiste jump with the Exo jump. It looked like it did not go off when he fell off the side, or he made it just hit the roof a little bit, clipped it.
It may have been because he tried to release the spacebar or the control key, whichever it was, while he was off the edge.
So unfortunate. We'll see though, Ant Matrix plus the Ashe set up on the high ground here. We'll see if they're able to push Seoul Dynasty out of this position. This is also one where Gesture's been able to get these big hooks.
Okay, there it is, the Immortality Field.
And I'm glad that Matt foreshadowed that because Gesture does exactly that on the high ground. They go for a push on the split San Francisco lineup.
Down by Violet. It's able at least to allow them to get a trade. Toby's the only support for the Dynasty alive right now. But
important to mention that, right? Because they are defending. It is actually the damage reduction of the nano boost here that means that Toby actually doesn't have to spend all his time pocketing Gesture and can actually heal other people. That is something you don't want to underestimate here. But having only the Mercy is a pretty big deal.
It gives Gesture a nano boost. So the Shock very wary of this. Striker's looking.
Prophet just won a 1v1 against Super on the low ground. I didn't see that at the time, so I don't think I mentioned it. Okay, he was damage boosted for some of it.
For Fitz on the point, just a little bit more damage, and yes, Toby was too far afield, helping his tanks. Prophet though is going to be
actually incorrect, helping Prophet, but I didn't really know that any better.
Healed up, and Striker eventually just has to stand out in the open. He had no blinks available. Chohyobin in
I'm so glad I didn't make a dry eyes joke again.
Similar trouble as the kinetic grasp won't keep him alive for very long. And San Francisco go under a minute, but they got that second tick there, Matt.
So again, just another way of all I've done is just say like I've referred to the time and I've referred to this, right? Don't have to do it too long. You can refer to it in a space of 3 seconds, but now everyone is up to speed on what the stakes are. And the stakes are high, right? Anyone who's sort of familiar knows that this is getting close to last fight territory here. And I mean, I'm in a close finish to this map, right? Potentially.
Yeah, and I think they should have switched off of this a while ago. I think they should have gone, like as soon as you saw Prophet go to Hanzo, I think they probably should have changed to what they've had working. Should have switched off of this a while ago. I think they should have gone, like as soon as you saw Prophet go to Hanzo, I
wonder what the thinking was with the Ana pick there. If it was just arbitrary or if there was a reason, there was a discussion going on.
They probably should have changed to what they've had working almost the entire game. Maybe you don't bring in the Widow, maybe you keep the Ashe for just how the point is structured. But now they'll bring in the Zen, they'll bring in the Roadhog here for the final push.
Prophet thinking about that Dragon Strike. He's got information now. He sees the Shock head to the high ground for the last push of this map.
I'll make it clear.
Goal.
I mean, it's not technically because if San Francisco win, I could have said that a bit better because obviously if they capture the point, then we have extra innings, but whatever.
Trying to get one on the board here. Gravitic Flux is going to make it pretty nasty for Violet, who's dropped down, and Prophet meets him with the Dragon Strike. There's nothing San Francisco can do. Prophet will sit pretty up.
The fight's already decided, so I am already taking my foot off the gas and I'm getting a little bit more, what's the word? Theatrical about it.
Trying to get one on the board here. Gravitic Flux is going to make it pretty nasty for Violet, who's dropped down, and Prophet meets him with the Dragon Strike. There's nothing San Francisco can do. Prophet will sit pretty up on that high ground now, and Fitz easily dispatches Striker. Or under 5 seconds left, and the Shock don't have the players to touch the point here. Whole hog to secure it, and the Seoul Dynasty fight back. The venerable Tigers finally bare their fangs.
And you know,
that was an off-the-cuff line. I don't think I thought about it beforehand, but I mean, they're venerable because they're respected. They got veterans, and it's a tiger pun. You know how it is.
You know what's kind of it's so odd. The Hanamura pick we all questioned, And we're like, oh, maybe it's something that the...
So remember, we're referring back to this Hanamura discussion of why it was strange, right? Because now we're going to revisit that and see if maybe our expectations for the rest of the series or for Hanamura in general have changed, right? This is where this is a great chance for Matt to recap us here.
The Seoul Dynasty have planned that the Shock maybe won't expect. They kind of beat them doing what they did in map number 1 and 2. It's just the Shock just refused to match it on point B. They committed to the Tracer, they committed to the Wrecking Ball in the Diva with the Batiste for just way too long.
Because people have to know why San Francisco lost a map that they are undefeated on. And maybe they need to be reminded that the Shock are undefeated on that map and how big a deal that is. Because right now, what I want to do is inject 50 cc's of hope into every Seoul Dynasty fan. Because this is a big deal. This is a important development. What a story. You know, the Seoul Dynasty, they're on the ropes, already down 2 maps. They pick the enemy team's best map just to style on them and they win it. You know, why do they win it? How do they win it? What does this mean for the rest of the series? How does that turn the tides? How does that change what our expectations should be for map number 4 or for how we rank these 2 teams in our head? We have very little time, so we need to do as much of this discussion as we can.
In my opinion, they needed to switch off of that really early on. They got what they wanted. Prophet's playing the Pharah. They get the point. He switches off of it, but they don't go back to what was already working. A little bit of an odd call there from San Francisco. Ends up costing them the map.
Yeah, and may have been a little bit of hubris there, Matt, because that's the first time San Francisco have lost Hanamura all season.
I know.
And we'll have to see
I've said it before, but I need to say it again.
State as we head into map number 4. The Dynasty get one on the board. They stay alive and they stay healthy. Let's see if they can even things up.
Okay, there you go. So the question is, am I fed info or stats during breaks or between fights? I actually had a tablet with the a basic stats readout there, so I could see like kills, deaths, final blows, damage done, healing done, and all I'm doing that is like comparing players on the same roles or the same hero, but nothing really, nothing deeper than that. It's not like maybe the stats that you see like Troutman or Backpack Matt sort of use on Twitter and stuff like that, but I mean, it's enough for like some sort of basic comparison, you know. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the most robust that I could use, but there you have it.